Okay, so we're really just experimenting here and learning a little bit about doing videos. But we'll try to incorporate a little bit of substance into the experimentation when we can. So what we're getting a look at here is just a glimpse of some of the economics of the plating shop, the chem lab at NRAO at the CDL. Of course, there's many reasons for having the plating lab here. A lot of it has to do with turnaround time, that if one of the design engineers brings a component in and they want to have it gold plated, if they were going to send that out for commercial plating, they'd be looking at a purchase rec, a shipping operation, shipping, receiving by the plating vendor, turnaround time that could be a week, 10 days maybe if we were lucky. So probably about a 2-week loss of time in getting that component to the next step. With the plating lab in-house, if that component comes in at 10 o'clock in the morning, it can probably be handed back to the design engineer by noontime that day. Small, tiny pieces, something that needs a little bit of rework on it, you might be talking 15 or 20 minutes of total time to complete the plating operation on that part. So we can do things in less than a day that would take probably typically 2 to 3 weeks if you had to go outside to a commercial plating vendor. And then of course economics comes into play here. Now for the last 15 years, starting at about 2005, I've been putting all the replenish empty gold bottles. When gold comes into the lab, it's in the form of a white powder. You empty the white powder into the bath, dissolve it, and then you've got another ounce of gold available for gold plating. So I've been saving the spent bottles for the last 15 years, and as of January 10th, 2020, the year 2020, we've accumulated 65 used bottles of gold, emptied bottles of gold replenisher, meaning that we've plated about 65 ounces of gold over the last 15 years. This is just one of the golds. This is the pure bondable gold that's used on amplifier chassis and on many of the components that we do. Electroforms, it's used heavily there. Anyhow, 65 ounces of plated gold. Gold's around $1,500 an ounce right now. So we're talking close to $100,000 of actual commodity gold value. But that's not what you pay when you get gold plating done. When you get an ounce of gold plated commercially, and assuming that ounce of gold is spread out over many, many different components, dozens or hundreds of components actually, typically you're putting somewhere between 0.1 to 0.5 grams of gold onto a component. 1 or 2 grams of gold onto a component would be unusual. That would take a big electroform or a big chassis piece of some sort. So there's a commercial multiplier. It's on the order of 15 to 20 times in the real world when you're going out to get plating done. So even though we've only got about $100,000 worth of commodity price gold here in front of us, the actual commercial cost from a vendor, such as Alexandria Metal Finishers, would have been on the order of $1.5 to $2 million if this had all been plated commercially. And we verified that fairly often because we do go outside for quotes on occasion. And in New Mexico, we used to go out for gold plating in New Mexico. And very often we would bump into a 15 times multiplier if we had, say, 5 or 10 cold plates or cold straps that we wanted to get plated. And minimum charges, we know we're looking at around $700 minimum charge. So we can take a part into the lab here that we can plate in 10 or 15 minutes, say just a small chassis piece, a small bracket. We'll put maybe $5 to $10 worth of gold on that. It takes 15 or 20 minutes. But if we had to go out to Alexandria, we'd be looking at a $700 charge for something that we can do literally for less than $10 worth of material and 10 or 15 minutes of our time. And this really is just one of the things we've done in the plating lab over the last 15 years. There's also been the bright gold plating, probably a similar amount to what we've done here in the soft bondable gold, maybe not quite as much. but quite a bit of bright gold plating and then a lot of copper electroforming. So in general, when busy, the lab can certainly pay for itself.